Next, we're going to talk about Google. We're going to start with the chart. We're probably going to come back to the chart, and I would not be surprised if we actually cover this a lot. We might even ask Mark Petrino about this one. What do you think about that? By the way, here you go on Google. Now, the daily chart here shows something interesting. And again, it's a little janky. It's a little early, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it does kind of look like we might be setting up for a possible inverse head and shoulders here. We'll see. Google here up 3.7% here in the pre-market, and you can see that this move creates a gap that gaps us above the 50-day moving average, that value 166.30 on Google. So this is kind of what the chart looks like. It sure looks like it's trying to bottom and turn around here. If we're able to hold above this 50-day moving average, we have the 169.18 level that we drew on here. Remember, this goes all the way back to 2024 and was a very significant level, both resistance and support. You can see we actually had another inverse head and shoulders. Look how that one resolved. In fact, I wanted to measure this. I'm glad I remembered to do this. This actually, after the inverse head and shoulders, this traded up 25.5%. If we get the exact same performance, and I'm not saying that we're going to, but if we do, from right here, that 25% takes us almost back to those all-time highs. So we'll see if we get that on Google. Now let's break down the report here. Alphabet Q1 earnings highlight. Google search, YouTube, cloud show, quote, robust momentum. Tech giant and magnificent seven-member Alphabet reported first quarter earnings after the market closed on Thursday. Here are some of the highlights. Now, remember, one of the things that I had said about Google yesterday is I do expect them to beat, but really what's going to determine what's going to happen next is how it trades. Now, it's encouraging to see it up 3.5+% here today. We really want that to hold. But if we take a look at what was actually in the report, as Pete said earlier, this was a really good report. Revenue was broken down as follows in the first quarter, with prior year's total in parentheses here. Google search, $50.7 billion. The prior total was $46.2 billion. So remember, 13 had said specifically yesterday, really wanted to see how ads were going to do. Well, Google search did really well. YouTube ads did really well, and total Google advertising $66.9 billion versus $61.7 billion last year. So green on all of those prints that kind of affect that. Google Network here, $7.3 billion. Last year it did $7.4 billion. That's the only one that was actually lower than the previous year. The company's Google subscriptions, platforms, and devices revenue was $10.4 billion compared to $8.7 billion last year. Let me know if you folks think that has anything to do with people moving more away from the iPhone to the Google Pixel ecosystem. I'm not sure that that's happening, but the numbers here pretty good for Google. Adding those items together makes up Google Services, which had a revenue of $74.3 billion, up from $70.4 billion in the first quarter last year. Google Cloud revenue was $12.3 billion compared to $9.6 billion for in last year's first quarter, up 28% year over year. So again, really good report here. What did Sundar Pichai have to say about that? The company saw, quote, robust momentum, end quote, across its business lines, highlighting strength in Google search, YouTube, and subscriptions on Google Cloud. Quote, we're pleased with our strong Q1 results, which reflect healthy growth and momentum across the business. Again, that came from Sundar Pichai. Pichai said the rollout of Gemini 2.5 AI models is helping with, quote, breakthroughs in performance, end quote, and will lead to future innovation. Underpinning this growth is our unique full stack approach to AI. The Alphabet CEO said Google search saw strong growth. This was one of the keys we were looking for, which was boosted by an increased engagement from AI features. So now maybe AI is starting to help here. We're getting a little insight on that into this report. That's encouraging too. Alphabet announced a 5% increase to the dividend. That's great news, especially if we are going to stay in a bear tape. It's going to make Google that much easier to hold. And a quarterly payout going to 21 cents per share. The company also announced that the board of directors authorized a $70 billion share repurchase plan on April 23rd. You get the buyback, you get the div raise, you get the good quarter there. Google up 3.7%. So do we think that Google can actually continue to trade up? Do we think that this is a pop and maybe a drop? We're already seeing the market kind of roll over a little bit here in the pre-market. Obviously, a lot could change when the market actually opens here. But what do we think is next for Google? Who's interested in Google? Now that we have the binary event out of the way, and before Google reports its next set of earnings, there could be trade deals in here. What do you think about Google? Is this something that should be owned?